say they like
was
it
just telling
theoretically.
people to put their thermostats at 78 degrees because the grid can't handle it. That's what Denver just voted for last night.
That's not socialism.
They do not have
it's
the
not
energy
socialism.
policies that we want, and they want green energy. Says the grid is overloaded.
All right, but that's something
just like
different.
California.
Chris Cuomo invited MAGA Republican Lauren Boebert onto his show for a debate covering energy policy and birthright citizenship. We're going to break down some of the biggest moments from this exchange between Lauren Boebert and Chris Cuomo on his NewsNation program, and I'll also share my own thoughts and reactions along the way. Let's dive in and take a closer look at everything that happened together.
Now the pretend to be normal Democrats that people like myself and Gabe Evans in Colorado are running against, well, this is their party, and this is what we are running against as well.
I think that it's going to be a battle of whether or not more voters believe in the boogeyman, which is the systemic change of capitalism to something else, which hasn't happened in New York City. And even the socialists, they may say they like it theoretically.
Telling people to put their thermostats at 78 degrees because the grid can't handle it. That's what Denver just voted for last night.
That's not socialism.
They do not have the energy policies that we want, and they want green energy. Says the grid is overloaded.
All right, but that's something
just like
different.
California. The
grid is
going to
overloaded.
get there, and all of these, because they won't allow us to have efficient energy. They are shutting down coal-fired energy plants and not allowing us to drill.
The grid is overloaded. It's not about the type of fuel; it's about the type of infrastructure. Our grid is overloaded because you guys haven't passed bills to invest in it, and you won't make the private companies
what about the hundreds of billions of dollars that were
infrastructure
invested in the Green New Deal? That did not help anyone's grid infrastructure. And I mean, these are the policies that were failing over the past few years, and now we are here working to get policies back in place with this very slim majority.
The Infrastructure Act.
I want to do more.
The Infrastructure Act worked for your constituency and worked for a lot of others also. You guys all took the money, and you all did it to do public work jobs.
And Chris, you absolutely know that. Only 9% of the $1.2 trillion went to actual infrastructure. I mean, this was
But you took the money.
Well, certainly for the projects that were needed. But I mean, this 9% of an infrastructure bill going to infrastructure.
Oh, look,
anyway,
I agree.
Those days are gone, and we're working
I agree.
on
It should have
new
been more
policy
and
now.
better. They should have been more and better, no question. I got one other quick question for you. Here's what I don't get. I have you want to say, hey, we shouldn't have birthright tourism. I agree. But it's not really that big a problem. What would be a problem is if a president, by executive order, can change the U.S. Constitution. Would you really be okay with that just because you don't like what's in the Constitution? Would you really be okay with the president changing it with his pen?
So, Chris, I'm not okay with just an executive order, and I have been fighting within my own party and within this Congress to codify his executive orders. So if we agree with a policy, then we should pass that law and enforce that law. And so right now, it is up to us to codify that executive order after the Supreme Court decision. We have to talk about this because this is a racket, and we need to shut it down. There are current estimates that show tens of thousands of babies born in the United States every year as a direct result of birth tourism. I mean, women in their third trimester coming and renting hotels just to get that precious document. There are estimates between 20 and 30,000 annually who are doing this. And that's not immigration. And it's not fair to the people who want to come to America and do things the right way.
I think the research shows that we don't know how many there are and that those estimates are seen as high by people who measure these kinds of things. But it is a thing. You could close it as a loophole. There's no question about it. You just have to do it the right way. And that means Congress has to act. And that's what they're not doing. They're not doing. And I say they, not you, because you've been a busy bee. OK, and you want this to be a law. And I think that's you doing your job. And then people can judge whether they like the laws that you pass or not. I appreciate you making the case here, Lauren. You're always welcome to do so.
So I want to start with the birthright citizenship issue. Lauren Boebert throws out this figure of 20,000 to 30,000 babies that she and many on the far right label as cases of birth tourism. But as Chris Cuomo pointed out, there really isn't a clear consensus on the actual numbers. I looked into it myself, and the estimates I found ranged from about 5,000 to 26,000. Now, if you're a MAGA supporter who's deeply concerned about immigration and doesn't want people coming from other countries to have children here, that number might sound alarming at first. But let's put it into perspective. Around 3.5 million babies are born in the United States every year, and the country has a population of roughly 330 million people. That means we're talking about an incredibly small fraction of all births. It's simply not a major issue. But this is exactly how MAGA figures like Lauren Boebert operate. They take very small issues and blow them up into massive crises to frighten the people who are willing to believe them. It's the same strategy they used with transgender athletes. A couple of years ago, the NCAA president said there were fewer than 10 transgender student athletes competing in college sports out of nearly 300,000 athletes nationwide. Yet MAGA politicians talk as if every school, every university, every high school, and every middle school has transgender athletes dominating girls' sports. It's another example of turning a tiny issue into a nationwide panic, because they always need a new enemy for people to fear. When it comes to energy, Mamdani's comments about businesses setting their air conditioning to 78 degrees have also been completely misrepresented. He never ordered anyone to do it, despite what many MAGA commentators claim. It was simply a suggestion, and it's something local officials across the country regularly recommend during extreme summer heat to help prevent the power grid from becoming overloaded and causing widespread outages. But this reminds me of the same attitude we saw a few years ago with people refusing to wear masks. The MAGA mindset often seems to be that if something helps other people or benefits society as a whole, they don't want any part of it. The attitude becomes, I'll keep my air conditioning as cold as I want because I only care about myself. Then when the power goes out, they're usually the first people complaining about it. Looking at the bigger picture, especially when it comes to energy, you'd think that with the United States involved in growing tensions with Iran and gas prices climbing again after briefly falling, this would be the perfect time to invest heavily in alternative energy. You would think the conversation would be about reducing our dependence on oil from unstable regions like the Middle East and avoiding reliance on places such as the Strait of Hormuz. A sensible government would see this as an opportunity to speed up the transition away from oil. Instead, we have leaders who think like Lauren Boebert, or perhaps don't think much at all, insisting that doubling down on oil is the answer. And when it comes to infrastructure, you'd expect that to be one issue both parties could agree on. Whether you're wealthy or struggling financially, everyone depends on the electrical grid. Maybe someone like Elon Musk has private systems powering his property, but 99.999% of Americans rely on the public grid every single day. Improving that system should be something everyone supports. We should be investing in stronger infrastructure so our power doesn't fail during heat waves, and officials don't even have to ask people to reduce their electricity use. But once again, Lauren Boebert follows the lead of Donald Trump. And every time they appear on shows like Chris Cuomo's, they remind people just how weak their arguments really are. I do wish Chris Cuomo had challenged her more aggressively, because like many television hosts, MAGA guests sometimes let MAGA guests avoid tougher follow-up questions. He pushed back a little, but I think he could have gone much further. Now I want to hear from you. Do you think Chris Cuomo handled Lauren Boebert well during this debate? Do you think she made any convincing points about birthright citizenship or about Mamdani's suggestion to slightly raise air conditioning temperatures? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. I'm Carter on Culture, and I'll see you in the next one.